on BBC One, bringing history and cultures together. The celebration of a festival and a life.
This month, Sikhs worldwide celebrate the holy festival of the Vaisakhi.
Vaisakhi is the most important celebrated festival for the Sikhs. On Vaisakhi, we have a procession, a Nagar Kirtan is what we call it.
Vaisakhi is a time for Sikhs to celebrate the birth of the Sikh nation and the establishment of the Sikh Code of Conduct, the Khalsa, by Guru Gobind Singh in 1699.
There's usually a big hall with the Guru Granth Sahib Ji in it, and you can go and listen to Kirtan, which is prayers, and Path, which is prayers too.
For Sikhs, Vaisakhi is a reminder of the importance of holding on to identity and heritage. And this is the little-known story of a figure central to Sikh history, the last Maharaja of the Sikh nation, whose own faith and identity were tested to the limit. His name, Maharaja Duleep Singh.
He symbolises the past, but he also represents an iconic figure within the community's history today.
Born a royal prince of the Punjab in the age of Queen Victoria, he lost the empire he was destined to inherit and was exiled to Britain as a teenager.
Duleep Singh really trod the ground for us in many ways because, you know, he came here, he was very isolated, cut off from his family, cut off from his culture, cut off from his religion.
Favoured by Queen Victoria, he converted to Christianity and lived the life of an English gentleman.
He'd exchanged his turban now for a top hat, and that, you know, that was his new life.
But gradually, he rediscovered his Sikh heritage and was baptised back into the Sikh faith. He is, for many British Sikhs celebrating Vaisakhi, a key figure in Anglo-Sikh history and continues to hold a fascination for those who've delved into his story.
Just the drama of the story really grabbed me, and I couldn't believe that not much has been written about it.
And I spent a lot of time doing a lot of research and working on a screenplay, you know, about his life.
I began looking in old bookshops and old antique fairs to find a piece of history, anything belonging to the Duleep Singh family, but something which I could keep myself.
I was lucky enough as a journalist to find the story of a lifetime, which was his story.
Dressed in his turban and jewels, this shadowy image is the young Maharaja Duleep Singh, the last ruler of the Sikh Empire. He's just 10 years old, captured by an amateur photographer in Lahore in 1848. Now part of Pakistan, Lahore was then the royal seat of power in an independent Punjab. Duleep's father was the charismatic Ranjit Singh, known as the Lion of the Punjab. And his mother, Rani Jindal, the last of Ranjit's many wives, renowned for her ambition and beauty.
Ranjit Singh was one of the most glittering, exotic rulers the Indian subcontinent has ever seen. He was an extraordinary man who proceeded to build in the space of 20 years a great empire which stretched from the Indian Ocean to the Himalayas.
Duleep Singh would have grown up in a very rich environment, and he would have been told the story of Vaisakhi, of the creation of the Brotherhood. He and his family and the court were the direct descendants, to some extent, of the proud tradition of Sikh rule.
But Duleep Singh never got the chance to make his own mark in history as a great Sikh ruler. With his mother holding the reins of power as regent after his father died, he stayed on the throne for just 6 years. By the time he was 11, his kingdom had been absorbed into British India. His future, uncertain.
What place is there for a little prince of the overthrown kingdom? He's a danger to the new rulers, as it were. And yet they're not going to behave like, say, Richard III and strangle him in the tower. They're going to do something subtle.
The deposed boy prince was separated from his mother and taken to Fatehgarh on the banks of the Ganges. It was 140 miles from Lahore and famous for its Christian missionary work.
He's taken away to a very European establishment, which was really made for the wives and children of the British officers serving in India. He has no countrymen around him, nothing to do with his Sikh religion. There's no Sikh priest, there's no Guru Granth Sahib with him.
He was placed in the care of a British couple, Dr. John Logan, a surgeon in the Bengal Army, and his wife, Lady Lena Logan.
We would recognise them as the kind of Margot and Jerry of British India, suburban figures who are kindly. And he loves them, really, and I think and they love him in return. But then they are political appointees. And every step that's made with this child becoming a man has to be referred to higher authority. He's a teenager, he's young and open to manipulation and influence, and he's introduced to the Christian religion and taught the Bible.
So this is the original Bible, which was placed in the hands of the Maharaja in 1850 at Fatehgarh Park. And what's lovely about this particular copy, it's highlighted and he's underlined particular prayers which interest him.
On the 8th of March 1853, Duleep was baptized into the Christian faith, the first Indian prince to convert. To emphasize his commitment, Duleep broke one of the sacred vows of Sikhism. His hair was cut, and he presented it, braided, to his British guardians.
In Sikh tradition, if you cut your hair, you are seen more or less as an outcast. And it's a very emotional act.
Uncut hair was one of the 5 articles of faith ordered by Guru Gobind Singh when he created the Sikh Brotherhood of the Khalsa. For Sikhs, it's seen as a symbol of respect for the perfection of God's creation.
I personally remember having my hair cut at the age of 8. And at the time, I didn't think too much of it because most migrant children were having their hair cut as they were going to enter school. But later in life, you begin to think, what happened to you? You know, if you had a choice, real choice, to exercise free will and to be able to keep your hair, would you have done so? I think in retrospect, I probably would have.
Having moved away from his Sikh faith, Duleep, aged just 15, left his Sikh homeland as an exile. Just a few days after the celebration of Vaisakhi, on the 19th of April 1854, he boarded a ship for Britain and disembarked into an alien environment.
Duleep Singh really trod the ground for us in many ways because, you know, he came here, he was very isolated, cut off from his family, cut off from his culture, cut off from his religion. And so to try and sort of work out who you are, what your role is in life, what your place is in life, when you're completely cut off like that, I think is a very hard thing to do.
Probably, you know, the older generation would just identify with this sense of displacement. You know, everybody wasn't a Maharaja, obviously nobody was, but you could have come from a farm in Punjab and then come here and worked in a factory, and the displacement that causes, the identity problems.
Today, Sikhs in Britain are established, and Vaisakhi is an opportunity to reaffirm their identity.
One of the reasons I like going to the Sikh temple is because I like being among people like myself. I like culturally what that does for me. I like the way it reinforces who we are to my children. Now, if you were to say to me that I don't have any way of listening to my Punjabi music anymore, or watch Indian films, or go to a Sikh temple, if I was not allowed to do any of those things, I would begin to feel very, very isolated.
Duleep was a very isolated young man, trying to work out where he fitted in. Treated as an exotic outsider, his royal status opened the doors to high society. Within weeks of his arrival, he was introduced to Queen Victoria.
He really fits the bill. He's turned a Christian, he's gentle, he's polite, he's good looking, and she takes to him immediately. He's holidaying in Osborne with the family. He's sitting next to Queen Victoria whenever there's a banquet.
This is wonderful. This is, imagine the wealth and the excitement of being rich and leisured in Victorian England, where at the very top is a class who just have fun. And fun is castles and hunting and shooting, and that's what he does.
And such were the attractions of this opulent lifestyle that Duleep's memories of his Sikh upbringing faded. Over the next 8 years, he rented properties in Scotland, the Cotswolds and Whitby. Whilst living in Whitby, he left his mark on the local landscape. Priya Kaur Atwal has volunteered with the Anglo-Sikh Heritage Trail, a charitable organisation which works to keep the Duleep Singh story alive in celebration of a shared Anglo-Sikh history.
Right here is the road that Duleep Singh built to travel down from his castle, the Mulgrave estate, down to Whitby, make life easier for himself. With the toll house, that's also a cool thing, just to think that there's just something left behind him that was made by him. And it's still here today, there's a family living in there. So guys, do you have any idea who this is?
No. No.
Do you have any idea who built your house?
No.
It was him.
How was it?
Yeah, he was an Indian prince, a Maharaja, and he lived in Mulgrave Castle, not far from here, for 4 years. And he built this road to make it easier for him to get into Whitby. Oh. And your house, he made so that basically people who were going along that road would pay a little fine that would be used to maintain the road and keep it all in nice order. So that was why he made his house.
Oh, cool.
Not bad, eh?
Yeah.
In private, Duleep had taken to his aristocratic lifestyle. But in public, he was expected to present himself as an Indian prince.
The Maharaja becomes the ideal party accessory. He's the exotic figure to lighten up every high society Victorian party. Even guests and hosts go out of their way to make a curry for the Maharaja to please him. And he's seen as head of the Indian princes of India.
Caught between two identities, gentleman about town and deposed Sikh Maharaja, Duleep was happy to accept his lot. And that might have been the end of the story, but for a meeting in 1861. By the age of 22, Duleep had been separated from his mother for 13 years. During that time, Rani Jindal had been imprisoned by the British, but escaped and continued to plot for the return of her son's birthright. Duleep now asked if he could meet her. The British no longer considered the frail and nearly blind Jindal a threat, and so Duleep set sail for a reunion in a Calcutta hotel.
The story goes that when she touched his head to give him blessings, she felt his shorn hair and cried that he'd given up his identity. She wanted him to get back to his Sikh faith and his Sikh roots.
Mother and son moved into Mulgrave Castle in Whitby, and Jindal began to open Duleep's mind to his heritage and to Sikh values.
She reminded him of his past and his former identity and his, not only just the riches that he once had as the ruler of the Punjab, but also his Sikh identity and the spirit that went with it. And Sikhs have this concept that is important to us. It's the idea of Chardhi Kala, that is like always having positive spirits, always thinking the best that will happen and never giving up. And she kept that tenacity of spirit with her. It was obvious that she deeply believed in that religious aspect of her life. And that Vaisakhi is a very important part of what Sikhs have to remember. Vaisakhi is about upholding of the Sikh identity. That was a legacy that his mother gave back to him, to restore him back to that faith and ignite that fire under him to get back what he had lost.
But in 1863, tragedy struck. Just 2 years after their emotional reunion, Rani Jindal died. Duleep was 24 years old. Duleep continued his British lifestyle. He also married Bamba Mullah, a Christian he'd met in Cairo on his travels, and she joined him in his newly purchased, sprawling estate in Elvedon, Suffolk. Here the seeds that his mother had sown began to show. A reconnection with his long-neglected Sikh roots.
On the outside, it looks like a kind of English, stately home, but on the inside, he had the whole thing made as an Indian sort of princely, palace. And so there are the most gorgeous sort of marble carvings and floors and walls and archways.
In these sumptuous new surroundings, reminiscent of his childhood, he had time to reflect on his mother's version of how he lost his empire. He spent hours in the British Library, poring over accounts of events he was too young to remember.
I had an interesting experience. I got the book out from the British Library, History of the Punjab, and there it was, published in 1846, and it was full of marks in green ink, exclamation marks and splutterings, and goodness me. So I gave it back to the librarian and said, I didn't write this, no, I didn't put this ink in, I think it must have been a previous borrower. It was him, he'd been writing in it.
Duleep meticulously collated his findings into bound volumes, which he sent with personal notes to members of the government.
This particular copy is actually the proof copy, which he's asking Lord Walsingham to look at and also check for any mistakes. And he says that I'm going to place this book before the Queen, and it's signed Duleep Singh.
Inspired by his mother, the methods Duleep used in pursuit of justice echoed the teaching of the 10th Guru, Gobind Singh, who had taught the importance of an exhaustive approach of appeal.
If we look at the experience of the Sikh community in Britain since 1945, it's very instructive. The campaigns, for example, over the right to wear the turban, to wear daggers, and to be represented, they are all very systematic, methodical, persistent. They represent a Sikh way of campaigning. Duleep Singh was a very sophisticated campaigner. He systematically approached the media outlets, the political representatives, to advance his case. And by modern standards, he was very much into political campaigning and knew which levers to pull.
Up to this point, Duleep had campaigned alone, but now he enlisted the help of his Sikh family and supporters in India. It set alarm bells ringing in government circles.
The idea of them travelling by train from Liverpool Street Station, followed by the Metropolitan Police Special Branch, who were noting down their movements, sinister men in turbans seen at Thetford Station, and all this information is flowing. And as the Maharaja, if you like, is shaking the bars of his gilded cage, the idea of him locked up in Elvedon, it's a parody of what he once had, it's a parody. I want my kingdom, I don't want this.
Alongside his political campaigning, Duleep showed a growing interest in being reinitiated into the Sikh faith.
And the Maharaja is visited by his cousin, Thakur Singh Sandhawalia. And with him comes Gyani Pratap Singh, a high priest of the Golden Temple at Amritsar, who had written one of the handwritten copies of the Guru Granth Sahib at the Golden Temple. And every day Pratap Singh begins to read the Guru Granth Sahib to the Maharaja. He begins to teach him Punjabi and starts showing him the way to pray according to the Sikh religion.
So this is the Punjabi learning manual designed by and handwritten by Sardar Gyani Pratap Singh. And as we can see, it just shows you the different sounds of each letter. And over here we see a Sikh prayer, which is written by Gyani Pratap Singh, and he's translated it in English for Maharaja Duleep Singh.
ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਅਕਲ ਦੀ ਜੜ ਹੈ।
Duleep was beginning to mould his Sikh identity. But he also had an eye on the future, on the next generation. The 1881 census lists Duleep's growing family, 3 daughters and 3 sons.
When you look at the photographs of his children, when they're young, they have unshorn hair, which is often braided. So in that sense, one sees that there is a desire to maintain some element of the heritage. I think that is a very important marker of identity, of the need to continue with the tradition.
Duleep's growing religious and political convictions had begun with the powerful voice of his mother 20 years before. Everything since then had been about getting to this pivotal moment in his life.
He's middle-aged, midlife. He decides to go to India. He will go to India. He'll go back to the Punjab.
Duleep wrote to Queen Victoria,
I did not wish that you, my sovereign, should hear from any other source but myself of the possibility of my re-embracing the faith of my ancestors.
Duleep abandoned Elvedon Hall, sold its contents, and at the end of March 1886 set sail for India to reclaim his sovereignty and to be baptized back into the Sikh faith. Duleep Singh's journey had 2 goals, one political and one personal. Politically, he'd turned his back on Britain in search of support for his claim on the Punjab. Whilst personally, he planned on arrival in India to be baptized back into the Sikh religion of his birth. The British government did not want him to get to India at all.
And when the ship docked at Aden, which was the halfway point, the Maharaja was arrested by the British resident at Aden and told he could not proceed to India, and if he did, very harsh steps would be taken against him.
And he's put under house arrest. He's not told it's house arrest, but he's not allowed to go out. He's put in this villa in Aden, and it's boiling hot, and nothing's happening, and this is like, you know, cruel and unusual punishment. And he paces up and down like a bird in a cage.
It was while under house arrest that Duleep became a Sikh in a baptism ceremony performed on the morning of the 25th of May, 1886. Many Sikhs choose to take Amrit during the Vaisakhi festival as a commitment to worship one God, to read the Guru Granth Sahib and to serve others.
Duleep Singh's reconversion to Sikhism in Aden, it is not just simply a strategic act, it is signifying that I have come back into the fold and this is my tradition and this is where I belong. And that would have represented a very emotional and poignant moment for him.
It was very easy to place the Bible in a young child's hand and get him to adopt a foreign religion. And the fact that he did a full circle and came back to Sikhism, especially in his circumstances, living in a foreign land, it needs praise because he did re-adopt the Sikh religion.
Whilst his personal journey of rediscovery had been fulfilled, Duleep's political ambitions remained elusive. Prevented from travelling to the Punjab by the British authorities, he travelled instead to Europe to plan his future. 2 months after his Amrit ceremony, he wrote a letter to a boyhood friend, its light-hearted tone at odds with its darker message.
I style myself lawful monarch of the Sikh nation. Doesn't that sound grand, my boy? The only thing I have settled on doing, as I am a Sikh now, is to fight the administration of India to the last and create all the mischief I can in India. Fancy our meeting on the battlefield, but I promise you, should it ever come to pass, the first shot.
But the first shot was never fired, and Duleep's life was coming to a close. He spent the final 7 years of his life talking with dissident, anti-British groups from Russia and Ireland. But his involvement in complex intrigues and plots ultimately came to nothing. At 52, his obsessive quest had cost him his marriage and his health.
He was such a broken man, a lonely figure, a man who was born to rule the Punjab, the Maharaja of the Punjab, and here he is, this destitute figure.
He died in a Paris hotel room of a stroke with a childhood toy, the hawk's bell, which he had around the neck of one of his birds of prey as a child. He used to have it on his wrist as a kind of memento of what had gone. In his hand, he's playing with it, and that's the end of it. He is now a Sikh, and by his rights, religious rights, he must be burned, cremated. But the British ambassador in Paris smuggles him out, his body out of the city, and is buried as a Christian in Eldon Church. He could not, even in death, be allowed to be a Sikh.
In 1999, the Prince of Wales unveiled a bronze statue of the Maharaja close to Elveden Hall, Duleep's old home. It's a mark of his importance in Anglo-Sikh history as the Punjab's last Maharaja and Britain's first Sikh settler. And for young Sikhs celebrating Vaisakhi, who may never have been to the Punjab, his story is a way of understanding and celebrating their Sikh heritage.
It would have been quite strange because I'm 11 years old and he was only 1 year older than me, and that would be quite terrifying, being deported from your home country. He might have felt out of place because he was with lots of other people, but none were like him.
One of the victories, shall we say, of the otherwise tragic life of Maharaja Duleep Singh is the fact that we're sitting here talking about him now. The fact that he means something to us, the fact that we are not forgetting him, forgetting his struggles, and the fact that we acknowledge what he did in terms of laying a kind of foundation for us as British Asians. But at the same time, I think it's a good warning of what can happen if you deny who you are, or if you're not able to enjoy those different sides of yourselves. So the fact that Duleep Singh is revered today and remembered by people all over the world, but particularly in Britain at this time of Vaisakhi, I think that's something worth celebrating.